Hello, this is Danielle Tremblay of InsightWithAnimals.com, Animal Communicator. So there's value in holding space for your animal friends when you ask them a question and hear the reply, especially when they offer you their feelings about how they feel emotionally about something. So let me just share an example. So one of my dogs, he's a senior. He's mostly blind, has been mostly blind for the past 6-ish years that I've had him. And he has probably over the last 5 months become increasingly nervous whenever eating out of his food bowl. My husband and I ended up moving his food bowl, even though no other animal in the family was bothering him, to the bedroom where he was the only animal eating in there. And that helped for a very short period of time, but his nervousness continued. And whenever he would hear a sound, we noticed he would jump up and leave his food bowl, whether in the kitchen or whether in the bedroom, and he would aim for his little dog bed, which happened to be at the foot of our bedroom bed. That was his little security spot. And so I actually found myself talking with him recently about this. And I said, what is going on for you? I observe X, Y, and Z. And can you help me understand where you're coming from? And what I got back from him is he felt apprehensive and worried and concerned that some noise or somebody or even a dining room chair would bump into him. Now, the dining room chairs at the dining room table just happen to be located probably about 5 feet, 6 feet from where his kitchen bowl is usually positioned. But those were his concerns. And the feeling of apprehension, concern, and worry was very profound. I mean, I could feel those emotions in him. And there's something really heart-opening for me when I can actually feel the emotions within an animal. Because I, as Danielle, I know what fear feels like to me. I know what apprehension feels like to me. I have compassion for him in a way that, if he hadn't expressed those emotions and I hadn't felt them, maybe I couldn't quite have understood. But what I did was I actually acknowledged him. I said, "Oh, thank you for sharing this with me. Now I see, now I understand better than I did before that you're feeling these emotions." And I really held space for my friend Yoshi so that he could understand that I was really grasping his concerns and I wasn't just tossing them aside or going into fix-it mode and saying, well, consider this, consider that, which I think some of us humans, and I find some of my clients want to do. We want to rush in and make things better for our animal friends. And sometimes it's about just holding the space for them and acknowledging where they are. After I acknowledged it, I asked him, how can I support you? Do you have any suggestions on how I can help you? And what I got from him was he needed help feeling safe in his world. So I listened to his original concerns and I said, okay, what is it about, the chairs at the dining room table? Because we don't move those, those chairs are still, dogs are eating at a different time than we feed ourselves at our table. So the chairs aren't moving. And he kept insisting he was really concerned about the chair moving, coming and hitting him accidentally. And so I acknowledged it and he said, just keep the chair still and make a safe space. So I told him, I will definitely ensure that any human that is around your food bowl when you are feeding is aware that we need to make sure we keep the kitchen chairs pushed in and help you to feel safe in that way. I will advocate for you, is what I told him. And I'll make sure that I don't pull or push or move any of the chairs in that moment. And so it was good for him to hear that. I also let him know, since he was concerned about bodies, other beings' bodies, animals or humans, accidentally bumping into him while he was eating, that, my husband and I would make a better commitment to talking to him out loud as we were walking around the kitchen or around the bedroom, just so he could hear our voice and locate us better, know where we were relative to him, since he can only see maybe shadows and about a foot, around his face. So he can't really see anything beyond that. So that was something helpful that I could do. And let me think, there was one more thing, which I can't seem to think of in the moment. But anyway, I basically listened to each and every concern. And I said, here's what I'll do regarding this concern. Here's what I'll do for you regarding that concern. And in this way, it acknowledged him and his fears and I didn't rush into fix-it mode in the way that my human mind wanted to tell him, well, you're safe. You don't have to worry about it. Because those are just words to an animal. Those are just words to him. I needed to show him with my actions, with my energy, with my sensitivity in knowing that he has a concern about X, Y, and Z. And I did all that. And, it's interesting. Over the past, I had this conversation with him maybe a couple of weeks ago. And I have to say, over the past probably 5 days, I've noticed an increase of courage on his end. He is choosing to come out of the bedroom, even though I'm willing to feed him in the bedroom on the floor, which is usually, at least up to this point in time, has been his place of preference. But he's willing to come out now, eat his food bowl in his normal place in the kitchen. All the food dogs bowls are very separated. I've got 4 little dogs total. And, and he's just doing a great job. And I did say to my husband the other day as he was walking around Yoshi, oh, Yoshi's eating. Just, be aware of Yoshi, be mindful of Yoshi. And Brandon was like, oh, yep, Yoshi, just letting you know I'm right here. I mean, we're demonstrating through our actions and our words to Yoshi that we are willing to follow through on what we originally said we were going to do for him. So I share the story to show you that animals sometimes can shift simply because we acknowledge and meet them where they are. I know sometimes we want to rush in and make things better for them in an instant. And sometimes, an animal's healing journey and healing from this or that concern isn't instantaneously happening. And so the best we can do is reach out, extend our hand and say, hey, I offer you my hand and tell me what's up, and here's what I can do about it. Or do you have any suggestions here? Here's what I'll do. It gives them the opportunity to let you be helpful. And sometimes, as in the case of Yoshi, things can shift for them, as it is doing for him. He is being so much braver eating his food bowl. And in retrospect, as a point of interest, I remember thinking to myself when he originally told me about a concern about the dining room chairs moving out and bumping into him. In the moment he shared that originally with me, I couldn't place in my mind where he was coming from with that concern. And then it was maybe 5 days after he told me that, I was driving my car to the library and totally out of the blue, it hit me. I was like, oh, he's concerned about that because in hindsight, I remembered in that moment that we had a child living with us for probably about 3 months when all these insecurities with Yoshi, our dog, started occurring. And at that time, that little 5-year-old that we had staying with us I would invite him to move his chair from the dining room table to help me prepare the dog's food. So he and I would work together at prepping the dog bowls, which were on the countertop. And because he was a short little person, he needed a chair to basically kneel on in order to help me. So it occurred around the feeding hour. And sometimes the little guy would very gently, very carefully push the chair back behind Yoshi while Yoshi was eating. Yoshi never got bumped into, that I recall, but I understand his concern now in retrospect. So you'll find that sometimes you don't always remember or can't necessarily pinpoint an animal's concern and where it's coming from, but in hindsight later you do. So it's all just a fascinating thing to listen to our friends.